Our God is a God of miracles. Today, we have our friend Karen in to hear about how God showed up for her in a very big way.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Shield Maidens podcast. This is the place where we hope you'll come to be raised up to be a warrior for Christ, while also learning how to fight back against the enemy. And the whole time, we really just want to point you to Jesus. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Riley.
We're your hosts. Thanks for coming today. Being here, whatever that is.
You
come
showed
here
up.
to listen.
It counts.
To listen in, wherever you're at right now. We're glad that you're here.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to get at. Before we move on, though, I'm going to remind you, because we kind of made a big deal out of it the last episode. The fun part. Yeah, the fun part. If you're watching on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe. Leave us a comment, like, share. Leave us a prayer request. We really will pray for you. We're not just saying that. And if you're listening on the audio-only versions, leave us a review. We would love that, so we can share more about what God is doing in our lives and in all of the amazing people's lives that we get to talk with every week. So episodes come out on Tuesdays. Hit the notification button so you'll know that each week, so you don't miss any of the good stuff, because we have a lot of good stuff coming.
Yeah, YouTube makes it really easy with that notification bell. I get a little ding at the top and it says, hey, the Shield Maidens posted a new episode.
New episode. Yeah. So we would really appreciate it if you could do that. That's the whole point of that.
Yeah.
But we are continuing today our little mini series kind of miracles, big ones and little ones, that God is doing in the lives of people. And we have a friend with us today that I'm excited to have with us. We have Karen Durner.
Thank you.
And I will let her introduce. You can just introduce yourself if you want a little bit for our audience, for anyone who knows you or doesn't know you. But.
Okay, so I'm speaking to the audience.
Yes.
Yes, I'm Karen Durner. I'm a wife and a mother. I've been married for almost 21 years. My husband and I both have an interest in education. We have 5 children. The oldest will be 18 soon, so that's a new season I'm embarking on. The next will be 16 soon. So we have another driver preparing. And then we have a son who will be 12, a daughter who's 10, and a daughter who's 4. So,
Awesome. And your family's just beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And so her husband was actually 2 of my 3 children's teacher, first grade teacher. And so we love him. And I actually went to high school with Karen.
Yes.
You guys go way back.
Although we really do. We weren't the same grade. I think you might be a grade or 2.
I know, and maybe your brother was the same age as my husband. No.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm like, maybe they were the same age. So there's some connections there anyway. But yeah, I worked with your husband, PJ, and he's an amazing teacher. And so we kind of got a little bit connected through that. And then I've just gotten to know little bits and pieces of your story. Yeah. Even through that, I remember him sharing some things with me. I was standing at the copy machine in the office when I still worked as the nurse there. And I don't know, like I told Riley and I told you, I was praying about who God do you want us to have on and what do you want to talk about? And multiple times you came straight to my mind.
Thank you.
And so I thought, okay, I'm going to ask her. And she said yes, and she's here. And we're grateful that you said yes.
You.
And, at least from the outside looking in, like, your family's just beautiful. And you guys are doing everything right. Like, I'm sure that you're at least trying. But it seems like God's just been faithful.
For sure.
To you guys.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
And we can get into some of that. Like I said, I have a specific memory of your husband telling me something that I think we'll talk about later, that I just, at the time, I remember just getting chills in the office at the copy machine, like, wow, God's amazing. So.
Yeah, I could probably share a lot of miracles that have happened along the way. I don't
Share
know.
whatever you want.
Yeah. Well,
like if you even want to just start, like, did you grow up knowing Jesus?
Sure.
Like,
I was raised to know God, but I didn't have like a friendship with Jesus. I always thought of God as like a judge, where I just wanted to try to do as many good things as possible.
Yep.
And then my freshman year of college, I noticed a big change in my little sister. And we went out one Friday night, and she explained to me that she had prayed and she now has like a friendship with Jesus. And that was something I had never really heard of, but I could see the difference it had made in her life. She had become very joyful, much less anxious. And so no one told me about the sinner's prayer. I just sat in my bed that night. It was April 4th, 2001. And I prayed for the Lord to just become my best friend. That's the only way I knew how to say it. And so I prayed for him to just help me with sin and to lead my life. Like, it's so precious to think like,
so
I just,
sweet.
like, it was
You
truly
didn't even
my
know
own
what you were-
words.
Yeah.
But I do specifically remember praying and asking the Lord to take leadership in my relationships, especially dating, because I had never really dated a Christian. And I knew that the Lord would want me to do that. I had been raised to know God. I knew that would be important. And I met PJ April 8th.
Oh my gosh.
2001.
4 days later?
Are you
the next
serious?
day I did. Now he was,
No.
we were friends for some time before we started dating, but that's a true story. Yeah.
That is
I met
so
him at a
cool.
church. I started going to church with my sister. And
is
that
so
night
cool.
I leaned over the pew to read his name on his Bible because I wanted to know who that boy was.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. And so that is
love
where
it.
I met my husband. And then
I
as
love
far
that
as
your
just,
sister led you
Yes.
truly to the Lord, even if like,
Unintentionally.
just
Yeah.
And I've seen you. I knew you knew the exact date because I've seen you post. I think I told you a couple of times. I've
Anniversary.
seen you like your birthday.
It's
like
my
your
spiritual birthday. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 47 is like my email address. And then my son is a lacrosse player and he got jersey 47. And I'm like, yay.
that's
Because I just love that
awesome.
number. I think I'm a person that thinks a lot about numbers.
Yeah.
Some people do, some people don't. I remember numbers well. And so sometimes things like that are really special to
That's
me.
really
so,
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I, was a new Christian when I started to date PJ. So he's pretty integral in helping me learn about the Bible, which I'm hoping to teach to my teenagers. This is such a good thing to study the Bible, to go to church together. Seems like I was going to say something else, but I don't. Oh, and my sister is a huge, huge part in my faith journey, even today. She's a year younger than me. I'm one of 5 kids. And she is so full of wisdom and encouragement. She's just unlike any person I know. So I often go to her.
It's so special that you have
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's really cool.
And I hope, my prayer, I love to work with moms especially, but I hope every person has that one person. I will text her, just pray. Like, I am so upset. I don't even want to talk about it, but I know right then and there, and when the time comes, she'll let me decompress. But, sometimes when you're so just overwhelmed, you just want somebody to be praying. So I feel like that would be important. I hope that each person has someone like that. So yeah. And then as we had kids, my oldest son has, this is where I got to know you, a lot of food allergies. So that's probably where you really learn to like trust the Lord with something that you love so dearly. So that was a big stretch in faith. And
because you're sending them off like to school, and of course PJ was in the school, but yeah, we had lots of conversations.
Yeah,
you're
and
sending them off with people that you don't know.
And
you're
thankfully,
trusting.
there were incidences in his life where it could have ended poorly, and it didn't. So you're thankful for God's just grace there. Our daughter was born with a vision impairment, so that's been a lot to overcome. I say all that just because I feel like I relate to a lot of moms. Like I have a personality where I never want someone to feel alone or without a friend. And I think that's just the way God made me. So I always try to relate to people and find that commonality. So, and then we did have infertility after we had our daughter, our son, then our daughter. So now I feel like I relate to a lot of women who are struggling with that. We had 2 miscarriages back to back. And when we get to the miracle, I think that second miscarriage is something to note because the pregnancy that was a miracle was it was the same as the miscarriage. So the doctor and I were pretty certain it was the same thing. So, and then we became foster parents. So before I met my husband, I've always wanted to adopt. I feel like some people have that calling in their heart. Some people, they can't watch the little dog orphan videos, right? But like any orphan person, that story just really, really gets to me. And I was raised in a large family, and though we never had, like expensive trips or expensive things, Mom and Dad were always willing to take and help other people, even house other people, and just share our family. Yeah. So I always felt like, if there are kids out there that don't have a family, I can do that, right? I can do that. And so PJ and I prayed. Well, before as we were dating, I asked him, like, do you want to adopt kids? Because if you
this
don't,
is a deal breaker.
No, it really was. There were several things. I hope people who are dating do talk about that. I wanted him to commit that I didn't need to cook as well as his mom. Because I don't have that interest.
My husband probably should have committed to that before. He's probably regretting it because I don't cook as well as Mima.
Well, I'm growing into being a better anyway. But yeah, I had asked him specifically one time, like, if you aren't interested in adoption, I was so strong into that. I knew it would be a deal breaker.
Yeah. Wow.
And he said that he had never thought of it, but he wasn't close to it. So after the miscarriages, we had to see a fertility doctor because my OBGYN was like, I think you have an underlying health issue.
Yeah.
Like you had healthy pregnancies and now you don't.
Yeah.
So I went through all the rigmarole and I found out I had been carrying around an infection for who knows how long, probably after a C-section. And looking back, you see signs like I'd had a lot of pain and a lot of really odd symptoms, but we never could figure out what it was. And I think sometimes things like that, they had to do some extensive testing, and one was to check for cancer. And thankfully, it hadn't grown into anything like that. But you think of God's provision, maybe that was one thing that we needed to know about. Yeah. So all of that got cleared up. Don't you love when you say like that one sentence? It was really traumatic. It was very painful and it made me really sick. And I think I almost had like a stomach ulcer from the intense medicine, but got through that. And then the fertility doctor was like, next month you can come in and we'll make sure you're pregnant. And I looked at him and I said, we don't want to do that. And I think I might be the only person that's ever looked at him and said, we don't want to do that. Yeah. But we had decided in our hearts, God had shown us like, I feel like, and I try to teach my kids this, when something happens over and over, God is speaking to you. And it was adoption, foster care specifically. So we called in September. It would have been 2016. No, 2015, we called in September. And looking back, again, I'm big on dates. That is the exact week my kids were put into foster care. We didn't know them. But like when I was looking through paperwork, I even looked up the phone records. I'm like, that's the week I called to get my application. So it's so cool to look back. And sometimes I need that reminder in my own life that looking forward, God is working out the details.
He's already in it.
Yeah. I'm like the person that's like, but this time he might not. Right? So I need to look back and remind myself. But so we became foster parents. We, April of that year, were placed with a sibling set, a boy and a girl. And they lived with us for 18 months and they became our adopted children. So precious. They are so sweet.
They are. I know. I'm like, I want to, your whole family really is, but they are just like, I don't know what it is about the two of them.
They are. I could cry. So that, like, you could stop there and they're literally miracles. Like, I see God working in their lives. It's amazing. And I think as a mom, you can look back and you didn't do that. You can think you're the best mom, and I don't even think that. But you see God's goodness working in their lives. And it's just such a beautiful thing. I talk about this a lot, like on social media, but the pride that you get when you have the privilege of raising someone else's kid. It's amazing. Yeah. So
grab a tissue, girl. I know.
Because I think sometimes we feel maybe a little bit entitled, like, this is my kid. I had her. I know just looking back at all the ways my kids were put into foster care in northern Indiana, right? And then they happened to come here. We're very, very good friends with the foster family that they lived with. Tons of miracle stories there. So I was called and asked if I would consider 2 kids, which is a stretch of faith because I thought, in all my wisdom, that might be too much for me.
For one, thank you.
Yeah, we could probably do one, but we went and met them, and I instantly, and my older 2 children were a part of the whole adoption process, and they went as well, and we just left so excited. And when we walked out of the door of the foster family's home, in front of us, not to the side, was a double rainbow.
Oh.
And I just knew, like, that was God saying, like,
yes.
And a rainbow is a sign, a lot of times, of babies born.
Yes,
but I thought God, like, it's also a sign of God's promises. And it wasn't 1, it was 2. So rainbows have happened crazy amount of times. Like the day we got their adoption date, kid you not, a rainbow. Like, it happens frequently for us. And it's just a little wink, I think, from God. And then when the hard times came, because you can't go into being a foster parent and assume a smooth ride. It's very, very difficult. There were times where we weren't sure what would happen to our kids. And that broke my heart for their safety and security. Yeah. But I would always think about, like, but God sent that rainbow. Like, he has promises. You may not know what they are, but he showed you that day that you're meant to be here walking this road with them. So we did. And they're our children.
I feel like that's probably a common thought for someone who maybe, I have a heart to, like, foster and adopt, and I don't know that will happen in our lives ever, but when you have your own children before that, thinking like, how will this affect my kids that I have? What about their safety?
Or what if I have to give them back? I don't think I could do that.
I don't know that I can handle it. And I just to see your faith in that and the reminding, how God has reminded you over and over that, like, he's in that. He's taking care of it all. And it's beautiful.
Well, I tell my kids that faith is like a rubber band. So God's not just going to snap you in 2, though sometimes it feels
sometimes it feels like that.
I like that.
Lord, I think I snapped. But if you take a rubber band and you slowly do this, you will be able to stretch it pretty far. And that's how I describe faith. Like, the Lord asked something small, right? And then a little bit bigger. But when you said, I didn't think I could give them back, those exact words have come out of my mouth.
Right.
However, laying in bed, not thinking I could get up one more day after losing that second baby, I realized if I can live through that, and I started to change my thought, you know what? This is really about them and less about myself. And if I can give them a safe home where I can show them love for one day or 1 year, that's what I want for them. And it's going to hurt me, but I've lived through pain, right? And I came out the other side. And, then you worry how it's going to affect your kids. But then I think, but my kids have a safe home to heal in, right? So when you think about just the many, many kids who really could just use temporary homes, long-term homes. So those are things I am very much not the wisest person. Those are things that have come into my mind, and I feel like the Lord has taught me through it. So, so that's where I guess we get to the last person,
so
right?
Tell us about
number 5.
So number 5. Tell us about number 5.
Okay, so number 5, we were getting our little baby. That's what she was meant to be, itty bitty. That was her nickname, and she was the baby, and she was happy with that, and I was thrilled. And we had actually. When you're a foster parent, the calls never stop. And PJ was taking his new teaching position. We had actually gotten a call that summer for a new baby, and I so desperately wanted to say yes. But our husbands are wise too, and we have to have that agreement, and I do see him as the leader, and he told me he just didn't think it was the wise choice for any of us.
Right.
So we decided to let the foster care system know to please take our name off the list and that we would be withdrawing our foster license. And we laugh, we tell this story, but you have to mark why. And one of the boxes says at capacity. So that's what we chose because we were at capacity.
4. Yeah.
We had 4 children. And so shortly after, I remember just skipping out of pre-K, so excited. Like my baby's going to pre-K. All the moms are crying. I'm like, I've been doing this for 13 years, and so excited. And I feel like the Lord was just laughing like, you just wait, woman. It was November, and I realized I probably should take a pregnancy test.
Oh, no.
And I had infertility. So my backstory, without too much information, I easily can become pregnant. I can't sustain it. So I am very adamant about preventing all pregnancy because I don't want babies. I believe in conception being, when children are children. And I didn't want that to keep happening. So I dug around and I found an expired pregnancy test. And I took it, and it was positive, which people tell me that's a really bad, like that's a really positive test.
An expired
if it's expired.
And so Sunday morning, I drove to CVS while my kids were at church, and I took another one.
Aww.
And it was positive. And I sat in the CVS parking lot, and I could not breathe.
I bet.
I could not breathe. I felt really overwhelmed. And I remember I love to tell the Lord my thoughts very openly and honestly. And it was that this is a really bad choice. I can't do this.
How old? Noah was 7th, he was 6th or 7th grade?
6th grade. 6th grade. Okay. And then Hannah would have been 4th grade. And then Isaiah kindergarten.
And Leah
maybe
preschool.
Going into kindergarten. Yeah. And then, no, wait, he was in kindergarten. Yeah, and Leah was going to be a kindergartner. Okay. Yeah, and I had just really made my mind up what I was going to do as far as going back to work. And I married a teacher, which is a beautiful thing, but income is limited.
Right.
So there were just a lot of reasons I was telling the Lord, like, this is really a bad choice for you to make. And then always in the back of your mind, when you're a mom who has a miscarriage or multiple, is always that viability question. Right. So I called my OB/GYN that Monday, and because she had walked with me through those miscarriages, she saw me that very day. Yeah. And so my HCG levels were really high, and they did an ultrasound, and I wrote this down because this is when it starts to get a little puzzling. Based on the calendar, I should have been about 8 weeks pregnant.
Okay.
They did confirm that there was a gestational sac, and they thought maybe around 5 weeks. The gestational sac, I looked this up on medical things. You're the medical person. But it should have appeared between 3 and 5 weeks. So it wasn't crazy, but it was a little strange. They just kept telling me, well, I think you have your dates wrong. And I thought,
You're like, no. You know.
Did I just tell you that I'm good with dates?
Right. I know my numbers.
I know my numbers, but whatever. And so they wanted me to come back. And my OB/GYN was, or OB at that point, fantastic. Like, she knew I was really anxious, so she was constantly keeping my HCG. I went on, funny thing, I had this like protocol from like the infertility doctor that I never, and so she immediately sent me, like that protocol. One was like progesterone, baby aspirin, things like that. Because I, even on the phone, I'm like, so like, do I like go back to the fertility doctor? She's like, no, you're pregnant. You stay here.
Oh, you don't need him anymore.
You're done.
Yeah. And so anyway, so a week later we did another ultrasound, and that's when things started to look really bad because the gestational sac hadn't grown. And so that didn't show that my pregnancy was progressing as far as like you're 6 weeks. I should have been. And that is what happened in the second miscarriage. So I grew a gestational sac. I even grew a yolk sac, and then it all deflated. And that's where we found out I had the infection. So my OB is like, you might have had 2 problems going on at the same time. You have some autoimmune disorder now. I have a feeling maybe your body just isn't able to help a pregnancy along. Yeah. And so, I don't want to talk too much.
No. Please tell us all this.
Yeah. So at that point, I was really sad, but not surprised.
Because this is what had happened.
Yeah.
At least you thought with the previous miscarriage. And so, like, just for clarity, right? You thought you were 8 or 9 weeks along at this point.
I think I should have been like 9 weeks.
Like, you knew.
I should have been pretty far along.
And they're saying, no, like, you must be earlier on the first week. And then when you went back, like, nothing had progressed, nothing had grown.
Yeah.
And at that point, like, you're not seeing a baby.
No,
right?
it's just an empty sac that's not growing.
That's
and
what I thought.
I didn't record all this, and I know there's a lot of leeway, but I think too, like the HCG numbers weren't coinciding with dates.
Right.
It just looked to be a mess.
Yeah.
And
nothing was lining up.
Yeah, she set me down and she said, I feel pretty adamant we could go ahead and call this non-viable, but we're not going to do anything about it right away. So I'll have you come in for another ultrasound. And so this would be, let's see here. I guess maybe I'm telling it wrong for a second. Okay, that was a Monday. Okay. She said, maybe you can come back in a week, but I'm not going to make you wait a week. So we'll just come back Thursday. Okay. And because I'd been taking progesterone, they told me I didn't have to because we're not like
you're
sustaining
anything. It will
anything.
sustain the pregnancy. Yeah. Right.
So I stopped that. And at that point, we hadn't told our kids we were pregnant, but we decided we would tell them because I was hoping to have everything surgically done. Yeah. I had miscarried once at home, and it was a partial miscarriage, and that was horrible. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to do that again. Plus, I had asked my OB, like, if we're going to have surgery, I would like everything to be made to where I'm never pregnant again, please, because I don't want, this isn't fair to me or babies that keep going to heaven. And she'd agreed. So I don't know why. She's like, I'm not going to make you wait a week. Just come back Thursday. And if we literally see the third time of no growth, right, then we'll call it. And I'm thankful she's that way. Mm-hmm. So I went back Thursday. I had to call my parents and tell them I was pregnant and miscarrying. I had to sit my kids down and tell them another baby had went to heaven. We called my husband's parents, and I felt pretty good. Like, so this is part of the story that might be interesting, but I don't know why I feel like it's boring, but apparently not.
This is not boring.
No, not
at all. Everyone that I started to share this with, my sister knew right away. Mm-hmm. The sister I spoke about it, but they would be like, well, we're going to pray for a miracle. And I thought maybe this is like really bad of my faith, but I wasn't praying that anymore. Mm-hmm. And this is maybe something I'm supposed to share because it came to my mind this week. I had this aha moment this week. But like, I kept asking myself, like, Karen, what is it about you? Like, why won't you pray for a miracle? I had pleaded so desperately after my second miscarriage. I had looked up article after article of babies that didn't have a heartbeat that did, right? Yeah. And I just prayed, Lord, please, 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 please. And it didn't happen. And I feel like my Bible teacher last week was talking about Jacob when he wrestled the Lord, okay? And he would not let go.
Mm-hmm. Until you bless me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when he walked away, he was never the same person after that. And I feel like that's what this experience was. I had decided, Lord, you know what I want. And I know what I want. And I had cried many a nights mad because I don't know why the Lord would allow me to get pregnant when I was trying not to be pregnant, only to take it away. Right. That exact thing had happened to my big sister. And I just really angered me. Anyway, in this situation, I had gotten to where the prayer was just, Lord, we are going to get through this. And I really wish you wouldn't have given this to me. But there will be a reason. I look back at those miscarriages and how it was perfect timing for my precious kids, right? And I feel like I connect with women. When they tell me they have a miscarriage, I will listen. Yeah, that's really hard. And it's so sad. That's the best words to say. It's so sad. Anyway, I just prayed just that the Lord would give me strength. That was my prayer. And looking back, I don't think I had that aha moment until recently, but I had decided in my faith, no matter what happened, I was just going to cling to the Lord. Because really, that's how you get through things. Mm-hmm. I think so often, like, we're like, Lord, please just this one time change the circumstance. Right. Please just one time. And the Lord can.
Yep, He can.
He can. But really, I feel like, and I'm preaching to myself today. Yep. Let's look back at God's faithfulness and then remind ourselves going forward. But I just wanted the Lord to help me because the timing was Christmas. And I thought, well, here I am having this surgery at Christmas. I just broke my kids' hearts. Yeah. I was just praying the Lord help me, peace, strength, right? And just to be a really good blessing to the kids. So I'm a little independent. I told my family I was going to this appointment by myself. PJ had just started a new job. We'd already taken off several days. And my mom's like, you're not going by yourself. And I thought, Mom, all you're going to do is cry. Oh. And I was just trying to get through grief. Yeah. Like I'd done this twice. I'm like, I don't need to, like, I need to get through this. Yeah. I need to get through this. And I'm not miscarrying partially at home, getting through this. And that morning I woke up. So Mom's like, you're not going by yourself. And then my sisters, I've got 2 of them. They're as precious as gold. Well, you're not going by. I have 2 sisters and a mom with me going to this appointment.
When you just wanted to be alone.
I really did, guys. I really did. And I told them, you can go, but if you start to cry a lot, you have to leave.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this,
no,
guys.
I understand that.
Guys, I'm past, like, we can't just sit here in this stage. We got to keep going. And you're not going in the ultrasound room with me, okay? We just need to scan and then move on. Right. So I woke up that morning spotting. And I'm like, well,
okay,
she better let me get a D&C.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to make me miscarry at home. And it was just such a horrible experience. So I went in already knowing I'm begging for this surgery like Friday. Now. This is a Thursday. I am begging. Let's do this Friday. I get in the ultrasound room and, they're precious. How are you? How are you feeling? I'm like sick as a dog is what I am.
Thanks.
Sick as a dog. And she looked at me and I go, I don't know. I think it's because they took me off that progesterone or something. I'm sick as a dog. And she's like, okay. Turns on the ultrasound. I see it immediately. There is a baby. There is a yolk sac. There's a heartbeat. 3 days ago, there was nothing. And a sac that wasn't growing. It was crazy. And so I am bawling.
What did you do?
She is bawling. She has scanned me enough times. And she's like, I think we better go get your family. And I go, okay. And so she leaves and she goes out in the waiting room. And my mom and my sisters are sitting there thinking I have cancer.
Oh, because she's
like,
crying.
And she needs you to come back.
Oh, my gosh.
We went through an entire box of Kleenexes. It was the sweetest experience. And that's really the start of this miracle. It's like she did not rush us. She just sat there and let us scan and just watch that little baby in their float. And I thought, you stinker. Like, where did you come from? How does that? So then I finished and I went to see my OB and I said, I'm spotting, like I'm going to lose the baby. And she said, no, that's what happens when you stop taking progesterone. You will spot. So I went home and started that right back up. Yeah. But she told me, I'll never forget, she said, Karen, I've been doing this a long time, and there are some things that we just can't explain. Okay. They're miracles. Mm-hmm. She said, I call them Jesus babies. And she's like, I think that's what we've got here. And super sweet lady, just kept scanning me every week under the premise that I'm very old. I was 38 at the time, so I was considered geriatric at that time.
Which is also so crazy. 35 geriatric. And crazy. That's what they call it. But they should change the terminology.
Yes, they should. It worked in my favor because everything got cleared through insurance, right? Yeah. But still, I feel like, God can answer your prayer in a mighty way, and then you still doubt. Because there was part of me that wondered, is she going to make it?
Yep.
Is she going to make it? I have an ultrasound at home, and I swear to you, she is smiling. And she's like 9 weeks. You can see her little face. See it. And I'm like, she's in there going like, I am viable. Y'all don't know anything.
You don't even know about me.
You don't know. And so I think to go through such what I thought was a loss just changed my whole thought. Not once again did I think, I can't do this. This is too much. It was such a gift. Such a gift. And I hate this because a lot of moms won't ever get to be pregnant after a miscarriage, but just getting to have that was such a gift. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we found out very quickly, maybe 11, 12 weeks, whenever they do the old lady genetic testing. We knew right away, but I already knew. God had told me this is a girl and I think you should call her Joy. Oh. So Yeah. And my kids were mad because their names are all Old Testament, ending in AH. So she was supposed to be Rebecca. And I said, no. And then my husband tried to talk me, like, what about her second name? And I was like, no.
It's Joy. She is Joy.
Her name has to be Joy. Like, I want every person that even hears her name to know, like, this is a gift. This is a miracle. So I don't know how much you want to skip ahead, but Joy came a little early. I got really sick, and it was during COVID. And I should have probably been hospitalized, but my OB allowed me to stay at home. Because I knew if I went in the hospital, I wouldn't see my family. Yeah. So for 4 weeks, I was hyped up on a lot of steroid. Wow. And she was supposed to come July 27th. And that's funny. I'm on dates. That's PJ's 40th birthday. Oh. And she decided on the 17th of July, actually on the 16th, my blood pressure started getting really bad. And my OB's like, what'd you eat for breakfast? I'm like, I know what you're doing, and I'm not having the baby today. My sister actually, my oldest sister has adopted 3 kids, and her youngest was in the hospital that day with an appendix rupture.
Oh my goodness.
And this is, again, COVID. So my younger sister had already been like quarantining and was going to keep my kids. Well, she had my other sister's kids. And I was like, I can't have the baby today. I don't even know where to take my kids.
Right.
And two of my kids, because of their life and trauma, like I always like them to be prepared as possible. Yeah. I said, I don't want to throw this on them. And so she's like, well, you run some labs. And if I call you, you come right back today. And so thankfully we were cleared for the next morning. And so my big sister is in the hospital, but we didn't get to see her because of COVID. My little sister had 9. No, she has 3. She had 2 more. And then my 4.
Oh, my goodness.
She kept all of them.
Wow, she's brave.
She is. She said it was like a cafeteria. She just threw food all the time.
You're just passing out snacks.
Yeah, they had a good time.
Making sure everybody's alive.
Yeah. So she came into the world a little early, 37 weeks. Here's the thing. But
if your timeline was right, right?
I don't know.
It might have been closer.
Yeah, because her pediatrician is like, this is not a premature baby, or even a 37-week baby.
Because there's definite way you can see in the babies.
And I think there's something about the line on their foot or something. She's like, this baby's not 37 weeks. I'm like,
you're like, I tried to tell you.
There's no guessing here.
Like, I tried to tell you guys.
Yeah. So, they tell you it was a C-section because of prior C-section. They're like, now she might not breathe real fast. We're just going to go in and surprise her, And so I just want you to know, like, we've got a lot of, like, extra people in the room. And so I text my family, like, please pray for Joy's lungs. She came out. My doctor said the loudest baby she's ever heard.
She did. I love it.
And then I didn't know I should not keep taking all of these oral steroids. So she continued to scream for about 24 hours until we realized that mommy probably should stop taking oral steroids. At one point, she's like, should we ask the doctor if you could stop taking them? I'm like, no, don't say anything. I'm not taking them anymore. She's out.
We're not going to ask. Yeah, we're not going to ask.
Again, it was COVID. And so she was in the room with me, and we went over 24 hours without sleeping.
Oh, my goodness.
It was very difficult.
That's rough.
But again, we live through hard times. Hard times grow our faith. They give us a new perspective. I was so privileged to sit there with that baby in that bed. Man, was I tired. Right. But I had made it through those 4 weeks when I was really sick. And I don't know. So I think Joy is such a story. And this is the beautiful thing. The last person that asked me to tell that story about Joy, I was pregnant. So I didn't have any more testimony after that. But she has been such a beautiful gift to every single one in our family. And I can give examples. My oldest son, the tough guy, real quiet. The other day she's at breakfast. She's like, well, there's my favorite brother. You just come here and give me a hug. And he does. It softens him in ways nobody else could, right? But he's not going to deny a 4-year-old girl.
No,
and I snapped a little picture Sunday. They were walking out to church.
Holding hands. I saw it.
Oh my goodness. And if he can, he'll have her like, Joy, sit on my lap. You know what I mean? So it's such a beautiful thing. And then I don't want to overrun time.
You're fine.
I think of Hannah. Hannah thinks it's her baby. Oh. And they are the exact same personality. So I think moms have like an intuition when they miscarry. I feel like we had a boy and then a girl. I tell myself my little boy in heaven is adorable and redheaded, just like my son. But the little girl, I told BJ, I think we only make one kind of girl. And they're really loud and like very imaginative because Hannah literally is living with her clone.
That is so funny.
They're very fun together. And then I worried, again, you just question God. Like, I don't know why you're doing that. I worried. I didn't want my adopted children, Isaiah and Leah, to feel like I was trying to replace them or that they weren't my favorite. And I came to the conclusion, I feel like someone might have even told me this. They now are a part of having a baby and raising it.
Yeah.
And, Isaiah, he would do anything for Joy. They're both early risers. So he's the one, he'll make her breakfast, gets her all set up. And Leah just could be her mother. Like they share a room. She always loves to help Joy get ready, do her hair. She read her the Bible last night. It's just such a sweet thing. I think God wanted that to be a redemption for all of us, to show the kids, hey, this is how we take a baby and love them and keep them. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
And then in my own motherhood, I think God knew this, but you're not prepared when you take children and adopt them for the long term. There's going to be some bumps. And as they age and they start to really comprehend how sad that situation is, there's a lot of emotion. And I'm a mom that internalizes all of that. Not everybody does, but I constantly am like, what should I do? What did I do? What could I do? And I feel like Joy has come along and taught me, like, you didn't do anything. The feelings they have are just feelings that happened, right? You didn't mess up. You didn't do it wrong. You did the best you could, and that's all you can do.
Yeah.
So she's come along. And when I say Joy, like, just the happiest little thing I've ever met. She's really sweet, really sweet. So I think those are good examples. I was going to give one more, something cool that happened. We are in the middle of house renovations, and one morning I was really upset. And I'm reading in this devotion, and it's like she's writing about the exact same thing I'm having a problem with in my house. Like something in her writing was broken and mine. And I kid you, I'm looking around, I'm like, what is going on? Like, I think somebody's punking me. And so I'm reading on Lisa TerKeurst, love her. And I was like, okay, you're rich. Like, why would this be broken in your house? But anyway, I'm reading along, and I stop for a moment, and Joy is singing. She does this a lot. And I can't remember the song that day, but a few weeks prior, we didn't even know if we were going to get our fixer-upper. And I was driving one day, and I mean, it was all I could do. Do you ever get, like, so overwhelmed with worry? That's all you can think about. And it's so heavy, you almost can't breathe. And I'm driving her to school after I drop off the kids, you know, trying to be like a good mom, love you. And your mind is just so
consumed.
And it's so heavy. And every little ounce of joy has just been sucked in, and the enemy's winning. And I'm driving along, and Joy, all of a sudden I had that moment where I realized she's singing, and she's like, this is the day. This is it. Come on, Mom, join with me now. Join with me. Because she's very loud. And I just thought God is like continuing to use her in our lives as a redemption. Like, woman, snap out of it. And I told my sister, I go, well, apparently this is the day the Lord has made. And I may or may not have a home to live in. But really, what a great reminder. Even if I didn't have a home to move to, because it was really falling apart at the time, like, it was all going to be okay.
Right.
So, yeah.
He's still in our tomorrows.
Yeah, he is.
He's still the provider. And, like, over and over, just suffering that you've gone through. Like, obviously, every person can relate to suffering in some way. If you haven't, you will. If you haven't yet, you will. But I heard this not long ago that, like, somebody said, well, there is no like shortcut to sanctification except suffering.
Yeah.
Suffering will, if you're walking with the Lord, it should push us closer to him and cling to him. Like you said, you decided no matter what happened with Joy's pregnancy, like you were going to cling to the Lord. And if that's all we can do, that's all we can do. But if it makes us more like him in the process. Yeah. Like, what a beautiful picture. And just the ripple. I just, over and over, God keeps showing me all these ripple effects into your family then.
Yeah.
Like, how beautiful that now you get to teach by your own example to these 5 beautiful kids. Like, look at God's goodness, even when things are hard.
Yeah.
He's still good.
It is. And I think, too, just when I love to work with new moms at our church, just telling them what I wish someone would have told me, what I would go back and tell myself. It's just consistency. Just trust in the Lord and just keep walking. When you can't walk, pause. He'll carry you, you know. Yeah. But even I get excited to think about the future, right? 2 of our kids are pretty adamant they're going to adopt, you know, and you think, what a legacy.
How beautiful.
It'd just be amazing to see just like, and I tell people, I would say this to anybody watching that has lost a baby, you feel like they had no weight in the world, but they did. My 2 babies have impacted our entire family and generations to come, for sure. Yeah. So in our yard, if you have a friend that's suffering, I would tell them, this is a good gift, but we planted a tree after those babies died, and we put 2 little rocks under it. We've moved twice, so we've dug up that tree and replanted it. Oh, wow. But here recently, Joy got a little birdhouse that she helped make. Leah made it for her, right. Let's be honest. And she went out and she hung it in that tree of all trees. And I thought, what a full circle moment.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes life is so hard. Just like if you were watching a movie and you pause it at the climax, well, that is hard. But if you can just keep going, and it's such a full circle. Like, here's my little Joy out there hanging the bird feeder in the little tree. And it's beautiful to watch something grow when you aren't going to be able to watch that child grow. Yeah. So that was just one of those things I thought, well, isn't that the sweetest thing I've ever seen? So, yeah. I don't know. That's all I've got.
Well, I mean, if that's all you got, like, that's amazing. I'm like, I mean, and I mean, I knew you had adopted, but I didn't know all these parts of your story. I see why God put you on my heart to invite you here, because I knew, you know, at least a glimpse of what had happened with Joy, like with her pregnancy, that the sack was empty. And then there she was, you know, I knew that portion, but you have a beautiful family a legacy.
Thank you.
And it's, I think that you'll probably give a lot of women encouragement. We had a friend on recently who has a nonprofit that helps women with infertility and miscarriage and stuff. And so it's just so relatable. Like so many people.
It is. Yeah.
And families, you know.
And I think, too, I always tell people, like you said, I would love to, you don't have to be a perfect person or a superhero to foster or adopt. You know, if my life is anything, I just hope it would be a testimony. That's why I said I have to share the story of Joy. She's a gift, and I have to share that. But just a testimony, like, God just uses ordinary people, and he equips and gives you the things that you need when you need them. And you just walk day by day like that. Yeah. Because, you know, I don't know for sure what the future will hold.
Right. None of us do. Yeah, none of us do. But if we're with him, then we can't go too far off track.
Yeah.
You're holding his hand. I always tell myself, if I'm like holding Jesus' hand, I can't go too far off the path for what he has for me.
Yeah.
You know? So
that's good.
Thank you for sharing today.
Oh, you're welcome. There might have been one more nugget, but I can't remember. I think just things I say a lot to moms, but I don't know if it's about adoption or miscarriage or I don't know. And I don't share a lot of Isaiah and Leah's story because that is their personal story.
Right, absolutely.
It's amazing the questions that you get asked at times, but it is. It's their story, and we want to protect that for them too. But, I think this is something I hope, and this is what I really encourage moms. This is my nugget. If I could go back to my old self. Every child is a gift. Joy's just came in a really strong way.
Right.
But when I look at my kids and I think, wow, like they're a gift. And I think Joy, if you meet her, she's just so fun and so sweet and just incredible. But it's not just that. It's a reminder I see every day of what God did. But I also look at my other kids. Like I see there was a time I thought I might be able to adopt one of my kids and not the other. Like just heartbreaking things that I see just miracle after miracle. And I share, God's working in Noah's life, Hannah's life. It's just, I don't know. I would encourage all moms just to really pray for God to give us that vision.
Absolutely.
Hey, they wake me up at 5 a.m.
Right.
They don't like my food.
Right. They're complaining about what we're eating again. Yeah.
But maybe I could see them as just such a miracle and a gift for us to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that it's not hard. It is.
I pray often that God will give me his heart for people in general, but for my kids too.
Yeah.
Like how I want to see them the way that he sees them. Because sometimes you just get caught up in the day to day and things are hard and you're in a tough season or whatever. But he could do it.
Yeah.
He'll give you his heart for them. And
yeah. So good.
There's nothing better than his heart for them. So
yeah, just stick with it. Ride the wave.
Just stick with it. Yes. Stick with Jesus, letting him lead you, and then stick it out.
Yeah. That's right. Wonderful.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening. I don't know how long that was.
I don't even know, and I don't care. I think it's amazing.
I think it's great. And I know lots of people relate.
There's going to be so many people relate to this.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
And encourage them.
Good.
Like that God still does miracles.
Yes.
Little and big.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this with us. We appreciate it.
Well, at the beginning of Karen's story, she told a little bit about her sister who is able to just pray when she is overwhelmed and says, hey, just pray. And we want to be that for you guys. That's what we're trying to build, a community of Shield Maidens. And so if there's anything that you need prayer for today, please leave it in the comments, send us a message. Before you go, also give us a like and a subscribe, ring the notification bell so that you get a notification every Tuesday when we upload a new episode. And until next time, grab a shield. We'll see you out there.
See you guys.